they hurt us. They actually care enough. Now people are saying that they are evil.
No, I agree with you.
Alex Jones agrees with the weekend sit and spin. Do you?
I agree with you, and the police and military better decide whose side they're on.
Only on the one and only.
Our weekend sit and spin is on KineticHiFi.com. We're internet radio. We're alternative media. Just trying to get the truth out there.
Good job.
And welcome in this Sunday morning, November the 9th. You are locked into the Sunday Morning Freedom Spin right here on KineticHiFi.com, Spreaker Web Radio. Glad to have you join us this morning. You can jump in the chat box to the place. Give us a talk to during the show. Locked in for the next 4 hours into the Sunday Morning Freedom Spin. You got the Drew Howard Show from 9 till 11. Then 11 to 1, you got the Sunday Spin with Nick O'Kelly. A big show planned for you on both of those today. So glad you could join us. A little rainy, a little wet out there, nasty in the low country. But you know what? It's going to be a good day anyways. A lot of news going on. Splits in the Catholic Church we were talking about yesterday with the demotion of an American bishop. That's making the top headline on Drudge this morning. Of course, everybody's still talking about the elections. And Infowars.com has a great article out here that the GOP gains slammed door on federal gun control. Republicans' astounding victory this week pushed federal gun control legislation even further out of reach. So does this mean Obama's going to act by himself again, like he's planning to on amnesty? So he just going to push through an executive order? That's what I think we have to watch out for. But Republicans' resounding victory this week pushed federal gun control legislation even further out of reach for proponents of stronger gun regulations. This is actually coming out of thehill.com. More than 90% of National Rifle Association-backed congressional candidates prevailed on Tuesday, bolstering the ranks of gun right advocates in both chambers. The gun lobby also has a powerful ally in incoming Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who is highly unlikely to bring to the floor any bills that would tighten firearm restrictions. There's no appetite for gun control in Washington, NRA spokesman Jennifer Baker said. We now have a Senate leader who is pro-Second Amendment, and it will become more and more difficult for them to pass gun control measures. So that's good news. Of course, that means we're probably going to see more events like Sandy Hoax. I didn't realize this, but even the Washington shooting, they had a vote there in Washington for stricter gun controls, and that school shooting happened right before that was passed, so a lot of people are questioning that now. But let's go ahead and get into this video here. We've got Alex Jones, This is How You Deal with Home Invasion, and it's talking about gun ownership. So a good little 5-minute video we'll get into here. You can take a listen from Infowars.com.
It sounds unbelievable. But remember, after the Aurora shooting, the Democrats put out training videos for Democrat-run companies in Colorado. And then Homeland Security put out videos saying vomit or urinate on someone when they're trying to rape you or shoot you. They also, in one training video, said something else I'm not going to repeat, but it's just ridiculous. They said poop on people. Okay? Now, let me tell you what's going to happen if somebody comes in here to rob us or kill us. Let me tell you what's going to happen. Biometric access, 357 Magnum, M4 right over there, Reaper 308 in that office. That's what's going to happen. You come in my house, that's what's going to happen. I catch you in my house, that's what's going to happen. You come in my house, in almost every case, the people that'll do that are intending harm. If I pull up and catch you in my house, I'll probably call the police because I don't want a dead body to deal with. And people that break in your house when you're gone usually don't mean harm, though they could. But if you come in when I'm there and the lights are on, that means you want to kill me and tie me down and rape my family. You're dead. And that's not because I'm a tough guy. You stick your hand down a badger hole, he's going to bite your fingers off. You come in my nest, my hole, I'm going to come after you, just like a dog. Now, there it is, CNN. College women told to urinate or vomit to deter a rapist. Well, is there a 5-day waiting period on that? Or is it a 28-day waiting period? I mean, because there's other things. There is a waiting period, actually, for some forms of fluids. I mean, I'm not trying to be gross, but, vomit, defecate, urinate on people. This is the joke. And now they say, lay down and play dead. That's exactly what they want you to do. It's not like it's a grizzly bear. That works most of the time with a grizzly bear because they usually don't like to eat humans. But if you run, then it triggers their prey response, and they will try to eat you. So, yes, laying down usually with a grizzly bear is the way to do it. Not with a predator. It's a different creature. Not with a human coming in. They want to rape you. And telling women to lay down and play dead. That is the worst advice. I've studied the criminology, and any cop will tell you that. Let's go to the local newscast, KTRK, with a straight face, a Disney affiliate. So the headline is, Disney tells women to lay down and be raped, basically. Let's go ahead and go to this clip.
Teach them to hide under their bed until you come get them.
That's where the training comes into play. This is a little safe zone for them. They just need to stay there, create a little comfort level for them.
Imagine, listen to this guy's voice. Can you imagine being married to him as a woman? Would you feel, in just a training area, get under the bed? Because somebody doing a home invasion never looks under the bed for kids. That's the first place someone looks. A real plan would be have a room with a secured window and a heavier door to get to that has weapons. It is smart, if you can, to retreat. Not me. I'm charging. I can't help it. You are in my house. You are dead. And you're going to die fast. Just go back to this guy's simpering voice. A nice little safe place for them. And what you do when there's a mass shooting is you get in a fetal position and you don't move because it's easier for the gunman to not have to aim. Let's go ahead and go to the tape.
Keep your cell phone and car keys with you at night. You'll be ready to call police, and your key fob's panic button can create a great distraction.
That's actually true.
And finally, if you come face to face with the bad guys and you're not prepared, lie down, don't look at them, and pretend to have a heart attack or a breathing problem. John says now is the time to plan for the worst.
I might have a heart attack as I jump for my gun so quick. I don't know. I would get so mad that I probably might not even go for a gun. Oh, man, I tell you. I mean, coming in people's houses when they're there. I mean, breaking into somebody's house when they're not there is horrible. But breaking into somebody's house when they're there, you better believe they're coming to kill you. Because they know you got guns. Unless you're in Chicago, New York, or D.C., where they have crime rates off the charts, home invasions off the charts, and all these old ladies with like 6, 7 locks just quake in fear, and these thugs feed on them.
So there you have it, folks. The newscasters out there telling you to lay down, play dead, vomit, urinate on your attacker. That's the way you stop them. No, you go out and you get a gun. But the liberals, the Democrats, they don't want you having guns in this country. That's why it was so important that, yeah, and again, I don't trust the GOP. I don't trust that we're not going to be screwed over by the elections that we have. I think we're going to amp up our wars. I think that's going to be a problem. I think you're going to see boots on the ground in Syria. McCain's going to finally get his backing to go in there and remove Assad. And I think it's going to destabilize the Middle East even more, lead to more acts like ISIS. Got a story here today about ISIS shutting down Syrian schools so they can do an ISIS-only curricula or an Islam-only curricula. How is that better than Assad allowing things to be taught? Allowing non-Sharia law to be taught? Allowing women to actually get educated, to drive cars, to go to stores? How is it better that we're supporting ISIS to overthrow a reasonably sane Syria? That's the question I ask, folks. Look at Syria. Let's look at the other countries there that we have overthrown under Obama. Let's look at Libya. Is it better now that it's not under Gaddafi? No, there's riots every day. It's violent. It's hellish. Look at Egypt, where you had miles and miles of nuns being crucified. Is that better? That's what you have to ask yourself is it going to be better if we overthrow Assad? He wasn't the greatest guy. Yes, he was a tyrant, but he was, or I shouldn't say a tyrant, he was a dictator. The real tyrants are ISIS coming in here, beheading anybody that doesn't agree with them, crucifying anybody that's a Christian. We've got the Muslim staying mum right now on murders of two of pregnant Christian couple in Pakistan. We'll get into that today as well. But I wanted to get into this New York Times headline before we get into our first break. Wanted to get into this. GOP establishment gears up for civil war against Tea Party. This is the New York Times editorial today. Washington, as most Republicans were taking a victory lap in the morning after the elections, a group of conservatives huddled anxiously in a conference room not far from Capitol Hill and agreed that now is the time for confrontation, not compromise and conciliation. Despite Republicans' ascension to Senate control and expanded House majority, many conservatives from the party's activist wing fear the congressional leaders are already being too timid with President Obama. They do not want to hear the government shutdowns are off the table or repealing the Obama Affordable Care Act is impossible, two things Republican leaders have said in recent days. If a new Republican leadership in the Senate is only talking about what they can't do, it's going to be very demoralizing, said Thomas J. Fitton, president of Judicial Watch, a conservative advocacy group that convenes regular gatherings called Groundswell. Any sense of triumph at its meetings last week was fleeting. I think the members of leadership need to decide what they're willing to shut down the government over, Mr. Fenton said. Establishment Republicans who had vowed to thwart Tea Party succeeded in electing new lawmakers who are, for the most part, less rebellious. And when the new Congress convenes in January, the Republican leaders who will have taken the reins will mainly be the mold of conservatives who have tried to keep the Tea Party in check. But they have not crushed the movement's spirit. No, they haven't, because the movement's growing. We saw the more Tea Party, libertarian-minded Republicans were the ones that won this election. And we see, again, it's falling to the Tea Party-minded, liberty-loving Republican wing. Guys like Senator Mike Lee, Senator Ted Cruz, they're the ones that are stepping up, saying that we have to have...
to respond.
Oh, didn't mean to get this video yet. Sorry, that just started playing. We'll get to that video for the first break. But Ted Cruz and Mike Lee are the ones that are coming up and saying that the new Attorney General nominee, Loretta Lynch, must announce Obama's planned executive amnesty or else she's not going to get confirmed. She has to say she's willing to fight the president or else she's not going to get confirmed. The thing is I think this is going to be just another Obama puppet. If you look at some of the things that she's done, she's already played party politics with prosecutions in New York. This is a female holder we're putting in. But Lindsey Graham likes her. Lindsey Graham thinks she'd be so great. Talked about that yesterday. Oh, what a joke. Anyways, folks, we're up against the first break right here. You're listening to the Sunday Morning Freedom Spin. This is the Drew Howard Show. KineticHiFi.com, Spreaker Web Radio. We'll be back in just a moment. Got a video I'm going to play here of Mike Lee saying Loretta Lynch must announce executive amnesty, or else they're not voting for her. You're locked into the Drew Howard Show. Sit and Spin Radio. We'll be back.
I want to thank all the women for listening to KineticHiFi.com.
We love it.
I know you do, baby. I know you do.
Your business not going right? Don't know how to advertise? Come holler at your boys right here at Signs to See. We specialize in all your advertising needs. You need t-shirts, business cards, signs, banners. We got it all. Car magnets, decals, flyers. We got it all for you right here at Signs to See. Conveniently located at 937 Wapo Road, Suite 2B. You can also call us at 843-608-0722. You got a family reunion, you got a class reunion, and don't know how to get your t-shirts done? Well, call Signs to See. Signs to See is conveniently located at 937 Wapo Road, Suite 2B. Also, you can call us 843-608-0722. Or you can log on, SignsToSee.com. And I do all my business with Signs to See.
At 164 King Street, find an oasis of calm, the Charleston Library Society, celebrating the written word, dedicated to enlightened thought within an atmosphere of gentility and learning. Established in 1748, it's the South's oldest cultural institution, and you're invited to visit. Come experience the elegant main reading room, our children's center, and join in to enjoy our speakers series, concerts, and other fine programs. Affordable membership is available now and always at the Charleston Library Society.
Yeah, it's what happens when you cross big with small. KineticHiFi.com. It's me. What you think I was going to say? Hey, you can get your head together. I don't even know. I'm trying to have an attitude over here. I ain't got time.
The dark side of the moon, I feel there's nothing I can do. Yeah. I watch the world float to the dark side of the moon.
And welcome back into the Sunday Morning Freedom Spin. This is the Drew Howard Show right here on KineticHiFi.com. You can also check us out on Spreaker Web Radio. That's where all the archives are at. Sit and Spin Radio. Just search that on Spreaker. You'll find us. As I was saying before the break, Obama is expected to nominate Loretta Lynch as Attorney General, Brooklyn U.S. Attorney there. We'll go ahead. We'll play the CNN video talking about that, and then we'll get back into it in a moment.
Reported this morning, Brooklyn prosecutor Loretta Lynch is President Obama's choice to replace Attorney General Eric Holder. The official announcement will be made tomorrow. You know Loretta Lynch. What do you think of this choice?
Well, just let me be honest about this. I just on a personal level, I am thrilled. In January of 1990, a long time ago, we started at practically the same time as assistant U.S. attorneys in Brooklyn, working in the basement office, doing the most basic introductory cases. And I have watched her career soar over the past 24 years. She is a workhorse prosecutor. She is not very well known. She's not even very well known in New York. But she has been the U.S. Attorney under Bill Clinton in Brooklyn. She's been the U.S. Attorney under President Obama in the Eastern District of New York, which is Brooklyn, Queens, Nassau, and Suffolk. And there have never been any scandals, never been any questions about her competence. And I expect she will simply sail through for her confirmation hearing.
And that's not entirely true there. There have been some scandals. She's currently prosecuting a New York state representative, let me find this, that claiming it's party politics. And of course, the CNN article left that out. I'll have to find the article I had yesterday. But, and again, she was U.S. Attorney under Clinton, U.S. Attorney under Obama. Why wasn't she a U.S. Attorney under Bush? Why was she demoted there? So it's clearly a case of party politics here, and I think once you start scratching the surface on Loretta Lynch, you're going to find that to be the case, that she's going to be a yes man for Obama. She's not going to push the issue. That's why you have Senators Ted Cruz, Mike Lee stepping up saying, we've got to hold her feet to the fire. We've got to keep her accountable. This was Mike Lee on Hannity.
Senator Mike Lee is with us. Senator, I know you signed a letter with 5 of your fellow senators to Harry Reid saying that, in fact, that you are going to stop all action in the Senate if the president does this. What are you going to do specifically?
Well, we think it's important for us to refuse to fund the president in his attempt to violate the law. Now, he used the word lawful or lawfully no fewer than 3 times in the clip you just played. But if what is rumored to be in the works is in fact going to happen, it'll be anything other than lawful. If in fact what he's going to do is issue an executive order just giving out green cards to millions of Americans who, under the law, as it's written today, is not in effect, that's not okay, that's not lawful, and we'll do everything we can to stop him, including withholding funds from his ability to carry out that project.
Okay, but you don't have control of the Senate until January. Let's
Correct.
say he does this now. Does Harry Reid have the ability to stop you, or are there parliamentary maneuvers that you can use in the Senate to prevent him from going forward with any other business? What else can you do?
You know, some of that remains to be seen. Yeah, we're at a disadvantage between now and then because his party does control the Senate between now and then. I would hope, and frankly I would expect, to see that this would be not a Republican issue versus a Democrat issue, but just an American issue. Look, we just had a big election the other day. Americans showed up across the country, and they spoke their voices. They wanted to make clear that their voices were heard. And They did not vote to support the president's agenda. They did not vote to support the president's lawless approach to the Constitution. They deserve to have their wishes respected, and I'm going to do everything I can to fight to make sure that happens.
It was interesting. I read the letter that you sent to Harry Reid, and you said in that letter, the Supreme Court has recognized that over no conceivable subject is the power of Congress more complete than its power on immigration. That's deep and that's profound. So I want to explain to people at home why the president may not have the authority to do this. We have an immigration law in this country. The immigration law does not allow for the amnesty that the president wants to grant. So instead of going back to Congress, we have co-equal branches of government, separation of powers. That's how we pass laws. You guys pass them, he signs them or he vetoes them. But rather than go back to you, he's just going to write an executive fiat. Well, if he can do that on this law, can he do that on any law?
Yes, which is precisely the problem, which is precisely why we've got to lead out on this issue and make sure that he doesn't lead us from behind into a constitutional crisis. Look, Sean, Article 1, Section 8 is very clear. The power to come up with a uniform set of laws governing immigration and naturalization belongs to Congress, not the president. Our existing immigration laws do not give the president this kind of authority to issue this kind of executive order.
The president's done this on welfare. He's done this already with the DREAM Act and some other actions on immigration, the appointments when the Senate wasn't in recess, which he got rebuked by the Supreme Court. To me, it seems that this president is defiant. He said he heard the American people, but it doesn't really seem to hear the American people. Is he bringing us to a constitutional tipping point? Liberal Democrat Jonathan Turley, George Washington University, has said that he thinks this is a tipping point, that he is pushing executive powers to the brink and bypassing the constitutional authority of Congress. Why wouldn't Democrats want to preserve the power?
They would and they should. And privately, some of them have told me that they do share concerns like these with the president exercising too much power. Several of them told me that privately in the wake of the president's recess appointments at a time when the Senate was not in recess. But publicly, for whatever reason, they weren't inclined to express that. So it's a problem. But look, the good news, Sean, is that we do have the power to stop him. We have the power described by James Madison in Federalist 58 to withhold funds from the president for his ability to do this.
Yeah, all right.
Power of the purse.
Republicans were elected for a reason. This is one of them. This is a big test for Mitch McConnell and the Republicans. Stand strong. We'll watch closely. Senator, thank you for being with us.
And that's exactly the point that I think needs to get across with this, is that this election was really a mandate to change. Another video. This is really a mandate to stop Obama's agenda because people are tired of it. They're tired of him running roughshod over our system. They're tired of him saying that the system's set to obstruct him. Well, yeah, that's the way it is. That's the safeguards that were put in there by our founders to keep one man from being too powerful, to keep one party from being too powerful, to keep one group from pushing their will onto another group in a tyrannical fashion. Our Constitution was set up to prevent tyranny, not enable it, not to provide it, not to work around it. And I've got this clip from Ben Stein here on Fox that really just sums it up. I think this was from before the election. Yeah, it was. This was from before the election. But still, this gets to the point of the fact that this was a vote against Obama because he has been, in Ben Stein's own word, the most racist president that America's ever had. Plus Ben Stein video.
Anonymous Ben Stein, always good to see you.
Always good to see you, beautiful Shannon.
Well, listen, handsome Ben Stein, you saw our poll there. Economy, top of the list still for most people because it's their daily lives. I mean, putting food on the table and gas in the car. How does it work for or against Democrats this time around?
Well, with all due respect, I disagree with your poll. I think that's what people are saying is their most important issue. But I think what the White House is doing is trying to racialize all politics, and they're especially trying to tell the African-American voter that the GOP is against letting them have a chance at a good life in this economy, and that's just a complete lie. I watch with fascination, with incredible fascination, all the stories about how the Democratic politicians, especially Hillary, are trying to whip up the African-American vote and say, oh, the Republicans have policies against black people in terms of the economy. But there are no such policies. The Republicans want a vigorous economy, the same as everyone else. There's that whole idea that the economy is being used in some way to oppress minorities is just an outrageous lie.
Well, and we've seen with Senator Mary Landrieu in a tough battle trying to hold on to her seat down in Louisiana, comments this week talking about how it's not been a good environment for African Americans or for women in the South.
That's
So,
a
I mean,
complete
that
lie.
talking point is out there.
It's a complete lie. I mean, the Republicans are every bit in favor of, as much in favor of African Americans having a good life. I'd say more in favor than the Democrats. And the idea that the Republicans are in some way making life difficult for black people is just nonsense.
Well,
it's just absolute nonsense. I mean, they might as well say the Republicans are coming down from the moon. I mean, it's just nonsense.
Well, but what do you say to their claims that Republicans cut budgets, they cut programs that help minorities, that help poor folks, that they are to blame because they make things tougher on those who don't have advantages and are disadvantaged?
The cuts have been absolutely minuscule, absolutely tiny, unbelievably small, and much more important has been the fact that the Republicans, by virtue of supporting the policies that stopped the crash in 2008, 2009 from being a Great Depression, stopped a real economic catastrophe. I mean, the Republicans are the ones who saved this economy, not the ones who ruined this economy. And as I say, whatever little tiny cuts they might have made here or there in welfare programs, and they were tiny, absolutely tiny. Look, by the way, let me back up a second, Shannon. What are they talking about? More people are on food stamps than ever. More people are getting welfare than ever. What cuts are they talking about? More people are getting government-subsidized health care than ever. What cuts are they talking about? It's all a way to racialize voting in this country. This president is the most racist president there has ever been in America. He is purposely trying to use race to divide Americans. Anyone who investigates it even a little bit knows it's hogwash.
Well, you know that the White House presses back vehemently against those kinds of arguments or those suggestions that the president or that Eric Holder overseeing the, the Justice Department, that they're using race as a way to motivate or to divide. But you seem like you're pretty adamant about that.
Well, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Eric Holder, I'm sure he's a wonderful guy. He sat next to me on an airplane flight once, and he couldn't have been more friendly. But he is a guy who every time there's any kind of issue in the law, he says it's racism by the white police. The white police are beating up on the poor black people. Look, that's just nonsense. And anyway, even if it were true, we don't know that the police are Republicans. The idea that in some way any kind of incident that happens which victimizes a black person is a Republican plot is just nonsense. I mean, they might as well say it's a plot by people from outer space.
But
it just doesn't hold any water.
Has the GOP, though, done a bad job of changing that perception? If that's how those in the African American community feel, that's their perception, they feel targeted.
Well, they're allowed to feel however they want to feel, but it's basically just an excuse for saying, look, I'm going to vote for President Obama because he's my own race. I mean, that's what it basically comes down to. Obama has basically said, and they're handing out pamphlets about this. It's been described a lot in the Wall Street Journal. They're handing out pamphlets saying, look, the Republicans are targeting President Obama because he's black. You're black. You've got to go out and support him. That's just nonsense. The Republicans are the most pro-black party there's ever been. The Republicans are the ones who passed all the civil rights laws back in the 60s, not the Democrats.
That gets lost in the conversation a lot. All right, Ben Stein, we didn't mean to get you worked up, but it's always good to see you.
Well, I'm sorry to get worked up.
It's good.
And again, it falls back to the lamestream media's reporting, the way that they twist stories. And getting into that, we've got directly from the White House, Obama caught ordering press to cover up Ebola. Pharmacologist reveals how press has bowed to government's demand to keep Americans in the dark. This is a Paul Joseph Watson article out of Infowars.com. An eyebrow-raising admission at the end of a Forbes article written by pharmacologist David Kroll reveals that the media has agreed not to report on suspected Ebola cases in the United States. In a piece entitled Liberian Traveler at Duke Hospital Shows Preliminary Negative Results for Ebola, Kroll describes attending a press conference involving Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Adana Was. After revealing that an unnamed official abruptly called the press conference to a close when Moz was asked a difficult question about the suspected Ebola victim, Kroll then drops a bombshell. The Associated Press and other press outlets have agreed not to report on suspected cases of Ebola in the United States until a positive viral RNA test is completed, he notes. That's a direct quote from what Kroll said at the end of this press conference. Kroll then felt the need to justify what he was talking about the suspected Ebola case at Duke Hospital, which subsequently turned out to be negative, explaining that he was covering tonight's announcement of a potential Ebola case because it had been reported in my area at Duke University Medical Center, an institution where I hold an unpaid adjunct associate professor appointment in their Department of Medicine, Kroll said. The agreement between major media outlets and health authorities, presumably the CDC, not to report on potential Ebola cases in the United States was apparently made behind the scenes with with no public discussion whatsoever. This is to ensure heightened criticism on the CDC's handling of the Ebola outbreaks in the U.S., which are already under close scrutiny. While the CDC will almost certainly claim that such an arrangement is necessary to prevent hysteria, many will see this as another example of how the mainstream press is more interested in acquiescing to the government demands than keeping the American people informed. It goes on to talk about Dr. James Lawrensky's reveal that there are disappearing patients that have Ebola symptoms, that they're coming up with other vans, taking them away. You never hear from them again. I still want to know, has anybody heard from Duncan's family recently? I find it hard to believe that 2 nurses caught Ebola from him, but the family that stayed in the house where he was vomiting and, sick at for a week didn't catch anything. I think we still need to ask a lot more questions about what's going on with Ebola out there and why the media would be bought off. Of course, we've seen the media doing everything they can to shield Obama from any criticisms. Particularly MSNBC, CNN, and that's why CNN's getting dropped from Dish. That's why MSNBC's ratings continue to decline. They're now lucky to pull 200,000 viewers to any of their shows. Simple numbers, folks. The numbers don't lie. That's all you got to look at. But what are we going to see now for the next 2 years? That's the question. Are we going to see the media circle their wagons around the Obama administration? We're seeing some still continue to speak out against him, mainly the alternative media. Does Obama care that he's facing an uphill battle now? Does he care that he's going to be in a possibly a world of hurt as his executive amnesty plans maybe getting derailed? Which that's what we have to see. We have to hold the Republicans that were elected. We have to hold their feet to the fire here and make sure that they don't bow and acquiesce to Obama's demands. I don't trust Boehner. I don't trust Harry Reid. They're in bed with him. They're playing golf with him. I don't trust Lindsey Graham. I don't trust John McCain. I don't trust the establishment Republicans. I do trust Mike Lee. I do trust Justin Amash. I'm trusting Ted Cruz. I'm still suspicious, but I'm trusting him. Rand Paul, I trust him. There are good representatives, good senators, good congressmen out there that I trust. Trey Gowdy, I trust him to keep the fight up. But what did Obama do before he jet sets to Asia for a week? He went and played golf. President Obama spent Saturday afternoon on the golf course with staffers before heading off to a week-long trip across Asia. The story appeared on thehill.com. The president was joined by longtime aides Marvin Nicholson, Joe Paulson, and Mike Brush. All 3 work in the White House Advance Office, which coordinates travel and scheduling. The presidential motorcade arrived at Fort Belvedere, just outside Washington, Fairfax County, Virginia, just after 12:30, where they played golf. So good to see he's not changing any of his plans. Still getting as much time on the golf course as possible. Even though voters overwhelmingly said, we don't like your policies, we're tired of you, your executive amnesty talk. We're tired of you executively, unilaterally trying to run this country, trying to fundamentally transform this country, as you said. Anyways, so much more to get to. We're going to go ahead and get to a break right here. You're listening to the Sunday Morning Freedom Spin. This is the Drew Howard Show, KineticHiFi.com, Spreaker Web Radio. Get out to a break right here, and we'll be back in just a few moments on KineticHiFi.com.
I would put myself right beside you. So let me ask, would you like that? Would you like that? And I don't mind if you say this love is the last time.
Yeah, this is what happens when you cross fun with classy. You're listening to KineticHiFi.com, baby. It's flashy.
Hi, this is Bob Charles, the host of The Bob Charles Show. I very rarely endorse anything, but this service deserves my attention. Atlantic Repair LLC is the only credit restoration company that is actually headquartered here in Charleston, South Carolina. Unlike other companies that overcharge you because a middleman gets paid and then your credit report goes to Poland packed in sauerkraut. This company is here to help all of us and our credit problems like low scores, collections, judgments, inquiries, and a bunch of more bad stuff. Call Atlantic Repair LLC at 888-957-1118. They are the one company in South Carolina that charges 50% less than any other service on the planet, and no monthly fees either. They work till they are done. They get my vote. Now it's your turn. Call 888-957-1118 or go to www.atlanticrepairllc.com and follow the directions on page 1. They care for you.
Do you sometimes think life was just better when I was young? Maybe you're right. You know, there has been a marked decline in girls ages 8 to 14 that participate in Girl Scouting. And today we're looking for girls who are ready to be the leaders of tomorrow. Girls in this age group are vital to Scouting. They serve as role models for younger girls and uplift the community. And ladies, we need you to be that example too. Become a volunteer, a troop leader, or just enroll your daughter in Girl Scouts today. Call 843-552-9910 to learn more.
You're listening to KineticHiFi.com, baby.
Can't be scared when it goes down. Stand for freedom here and now.
Undo the spell.
Only thing that's on my mind is who's gonna free this town
Bring it.
tonight. Who's gonna free this town tonight?
What's up?
New world order's going down.
What up, Flame? We are, yes, I said it, we are. Watch the truth rising. Global resistance. Get your fatigue.
Welcome back in. You're listening to the Sunday Morning Freedom Spin. This is the Drew Howard Show, Part 1. Stay tuned at 11 a.m. for Nick O'Kelly and the Sunday Spin with Nick O'Kelly. He's got a big show lined up for you today. You definitely don't want to miss that one. And continuing with what we've been talking about here, we've got RNC Chairman Rhys Priebus that comes out and says the dynamics have changed. This president has unified the majority of the country against his immigration policies, and that's what he says the election showed. Got a clip here from him on the Hugh Hewitt show.
Last I talked with the chairman, it was election night, and we had seen a little bit of the tide coming in. Reince Priebus, 3 days later, it was one heck of a wave.
Yeah, it was. And I don't know if you remember, but back in March of this year, I said it was going to be a tsunami. And I got kind of some heat for it, and maybe I probably shouldn't have said that anyway, but it turned out to be true. And what I take away from it is a couple things. One, of course, there's this media narrative that is true. It was a total rejection of Barack Obama, his policies, and everyone connected to those policies. But the other thing that is very true is that it was also the acceptance of conservative reformers in their presentation, whether it be Scott Walker, Bruce Rauner, you had Rick Snyder, Baker in Massachusetts, Hogan in Maryland. So on one hand, they rejected the Obama agenda, and they accepted the conservative reformer agenda. And one last thing, because I think it's important for people to remember and push back on this narrative. There's another narrative out there that says that what really this is about is that people are sick of everybody. They're sick of every person there is involved in Washington. Well, if that's the case, how come it only affected Democrats?
And I think a lot of that you're seeing is still the lesser of the two evils. Which is a bad way of looking at it. I don't like the lesser of two evil argument because you're still voting for evil. Yes, it was an acceptance of the reformer agenda. That's why we got to wrest power away from people like Lindsey Graham. Well, you got to wrest power away from people like John McCain because they're not working for the reformer agenda. They're still pushing the New World Order agenda. They're still pushing the global military-industrial complex agenda. And it's time that we get away from that. It's time we get away from anybody pushing this war machine, continuing these battles. And you're seeing now even Obama stepping up and raising the war effort. We see him accelerating that now. This is a John J. Zirk, a Greek name I can't pronounce. But it's an article out of Breitbart.com today. Worldview, Obama sharply escalates U.S. involvement in Iraq war. U.S. is doubling the numbers of troops in Iraq, but it's not a mission creep. U.S. cannot confirm claim that Russia takes or entering Ukraine. Chechnya refugees now fighting the Russians in Ukraine. Which I think a lot of that is Putin pushing the boundaries now because he sees how weak Obama really is. That he can't stand up to anybody, even that's against him in this country. He whines, he cries, he claims racism at every turn. Which is what you're really seeing, and that's what you're seeing the Democratic Party doing. You saw Ben Stein talk about it in that clip that we played. They tried it before the election, so that way they could turn out and say, well, it was an overwhelming wave because Obama's black. They don't like him because he's black. No, we don't like him because he's bucking our system. He's going against our constitutional protections that were put in place. He's trying to set himself up as a tyrant, as a dictator. He's going to act without Congress, and then he whines about Congress getting in his way. That's their job. That's their job. The reason why we're not supposed to have a lot of laws is because we're supposed to have a gridlock system that only allows the best, most needed laws to pass. That weeds out all of the junk. So, yeah, before even the Republicans take power, Obama's going ahead and raising the war effort. And I think you're going to see that escalate very sharply under Powers now with the Republican Party. I really do. This is a sickening story I mentioned earlier. Observers decry Muslim silence over murder of Christian couple in Pakistan. This is also coming out of Breitbart.com. Rufin Anthony, the bishop of Islamabad, has denounced the culpable silence of Muslim leaders who have failed to forcibly condemn what is being called the worst religiously motivated hate crime in Pakistan's history, the recent murder of a Christian couple in Pakistan. On November 4th, Shahzad Malish and his pregnant wife, Shima Babita, the parents of 4 children, were stoned and then burned alive in a brick kiln in Pakistan. The 2 victims were killed by an angry mob of hundreds of people stirred up by a local religious leader for allegedly burning pages of the Quran. Many have begun to ask how blasphemy laws that justifies killing in the name of religion can exist in today's world. Cardinal Jean-Louis Turenne, president of the Pontifical Council of Interreligious Dialogue, said he was shocked and speechless by the recent execution. The worst thing about it, he says, it was carried out in the name of religion. Religion cannot justify a crime like this. There is a law against blasphemy, he went on, which represents a problem. Shouldn't the international community intervene? I ask you, can we remain passive before crimes that are legitimized by religion? Turan said that the first victims of this outrage are the Muslims themselves because these hate crimes give Islam a terrible negative image. They should be the first to denounce them forcefully. That's what I've been saying about terrorism. That they should be the loudest voices against terrorism. However, they're not. But it's really no different than what we see here in America. I mean, instead of leading the riots in Ferguson, instead of preparing for it like it's a hurricane, like we talked about yesterday, where they're boarding up windows and preparing for this grand jury announcement, instead of that, we should see the NAACP out there leading the charge against the riots. They should be speaking out most forcefully about it. However, they're not. They're out there leading it. Tim Scott speaks out and says that racial politics have no place in this country and we need to end it. What happens? Dot Scott and the NAACP gives him an F grade for it. It is groups being used to further the global Bilderberg agenda. That's what we're seeing here. It doesn't matter what group it is. They're all being used and being manipulated to further this agenda of world domination. Nobody cares as long as you can watch your football games. It's Sunday, so most people's eyes are on that. Going to be thinking about football. Even the big problems they've had this year have been little impact on the NFL's bottom line Problems have been stacking up this season on the NFL's horizons like planes in a holding pattern. Investigations, arbitrations, suspensions, lawsuits, plea deals that shame both owners and high-profile stars. It has been a turbulent season so far by any measure, save for the most important one. Business has rarely been better. Goes on to say, despite the smoldering anger over Commissioner Roger Goodell's bungling of the Ray Rice domestic violence case, as well as some of the teams responded their players ran afoul of the law, no one has bailed on the NFL. The sponsors who raised the very public concerns 2 months ago have slipped quietly back into the fold. The politicians and women's rights advocates who expressed outrage have largely fallen silent, and the fans, the numbers speak for themselves. At the halfway point of the season, league-wide attendance at stadiums is on pace to better last year's per-game average of 68,867, which is a 5-year high, with 20 of the 32 teams reporting increases, according to stats. TV ratings, too, are equal or better than last year's average of 18.4 million viewers for nationally televised games, including 6.3 million females, according to Nielsen. So... That's right. Just bury your head in the sand. Keep watching football. Keep drinking beer, you morons, as Bill Hicks said. Just bury your head in the sand. In fact, with all this Republican hoopla this week, I think now's a good time to play that and remind people exactly what we're getting for the next 2 years. It's not a time to celebrate. It's a time to still be cautious. It's a time to still watch. Because if we don't, we're going to end up right back in the situation we were trying to get away from. Both of these two sides of this coin are meant for tyranny. They're both pushing the New World Order's agenda. Why should we not be fearful of the Republicans? Why should we trust them? We shouldn't. Bill Hicks said it best. Here's the clip, folks.
I think the puppet on the right shares my beliefs. I think the puppet on the left is more to my liking. Hey, wait a minute. There's one guy holding up both puppets. Shut up. Go back to bed, America. Your government is in control. Here's Love Connection. Watch this and get fat and stupid. By the way, keep drinking beer, you...
It's exactly right. It's exactly right. Bury your head in the sand, people. Don't care. Because that's cool. It's cool to be apathetic. It's cool to not care. And we have to be prepared because, as we've said, both sides of this coin want nothing more than to see liberty die. Polls out of California are showing that Barbara Boxer Dianne Feinstein shouldn't run again, according to a majority of voters. This is coming out of the LA Times. Although U.S. Senators Barbara Boxer and Dianne Feinstein, two of California's most experienced political figures, remain popular, a majority of state voters say they should not run for re-elections, according to a new University of Southern California Los Angeles Times poll. The analysts speculate about whether the Democratic stalwarts will seek an additional 6 years terms in coming years. 59% of registered voters said the state would be better off with two new candidates for the seats. The sentiment expressed by 79% of Republicans, but even many Democrats said it was time for new representation. 44% of Democrats responded prefer a new candidate, compared with 43% who said Boxer and Feinstein should run again. So more said they should get a new candidate than said they should run again. And of course, we can't forget Dianne Feinstein for wanting to take the guns. It's going to be harder to do now. With Republican control. However, we can't forget her saying that if she had the votes, which now she definitely doesn't have the votes, she would have every American turn them all in.
51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them. Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in. I would have done it. I could not do that. The votes weren't here.
Can't forget that clip from her. But it's good to see Californians saying that she shouldn't run again. So it's good to see that. And in fact, California is heating up over pesticides. I'm not a big fan of the pesticides. I don't like the Roundup Ready crops. I think they're definitely hurting. I don't like the glyphosates that get into our water systems.
His $2 billion citrus crop is on the defensive from an invasive pest that has already ravaged the southeast. Citrus farmers up and down the state are worried about a little insect that could do big damage. New at 6, what the government is doing to protect our crops.
It's called the Asian citrus psyllid. It can spread a tree-killing disease called citrus greening. The southeast has already been hit hard.
I've had friends go to Florida and send me back pictures of devastated orchards where it just looks like they stopped irrigating and they're just silhouettes of trees. And they say that it's a psyllid.
Rich Ferreira worries about his mandarin and lemon crops in Placer County.
There's a lot of unknowns.
Even though the invasive insects have not been found in our area yet, they have turned up in Southern California, along with one case of citrus greening.
Well, this is a trap put out here by the county.
State and federal governments are now fighting insects with insects, unleashing these wasps from Pakistan that lay their eggs under the psyllids.
Like a big parasite, and eventually it eats the larva, pupates inside, and then eventually a little adult wasp comes out of the psyllid.
UC Davis professor of entomology Dr. Lynn Kimsey showed us how these insects have an enormous economic impact, but they are actually so small you might not notice them.
But the truth is that this psyllid is a little tiny, maybe 1/8 of an inch long, optimistically, insect. It's very small for being so potentially devastating.
Small insects causing another headache for California farmers, already breaking a sweat over the drought.
There's lots of things we have to worry about, farmers in general, from the government, lawsuits, food safety. There's a whole host of things, and this is just one more.
Right now, the wasps are only being released in Southern California where the psyllids have been found. Dr. Kimsey says we cannot eliminate the pests altogether, but keeping the population low enough will hopefully protect the.
And see, that's how you naturally fight pests. That's how you naturally fight things that get into your crops. You release other animals to eat them. You don't go spray a bunch of chemicals all over the place. However, California is about to mandate spraying chemicals everywhere. This is coming out of the San Francisco Gate. With organic food growers reporting double-digit growth in the U.S. sales each year, producers are challenging a proposed California pest management program they say enshrines a pesticide-heavy approach for decades to come, including compulsory spraying of organic crops at the state's discretion. Organic crops are not supposed to be sprayed by pest control. Chief among the complaints of organic growers, the California Department of Food and Agriculture's pest management plan says compulsory state pesticide sprayings of organic crops would do no economic harm to organic producers on the grounds that the growers could sell the sprayed crops as non-organic instead. What if they don't want to? What if they want to sell organics? That's what we're seeing out of the farmers. Zia Sonabed, a Watsonville organic apple grower, said they would rather stop farming than to be a conventional farmer. And that's what the California Certified Organic Farmers, one of more than 30 agricultural groups, environmental organizations, and regional water agencies to file concerns about the Agriculture Department's pesticides provisions by the October 31st state deadline. You got to find when this article came out. Oh, it came out yesterday, but it's backtracking a little bit. At issue is a California organic agriculture industry that grew by 54% between 2009 and 2012. California leads the nation in organic sales, according to statistics by the University of California, Davis, and roughly 1/3 of the nation's organic industry. U.S. Department of Agriculture puts their overall value of the U.S. organic sector at $35 billion. People are getting tired of the GMO craps. We're getting tired of the pesticides. We're getting tired of the Roundup, the glyphosates. It gets in the waterways. It causes issues. It's causing disease. It's causing digestive issues. I still put the blame for a lot of the gastrointestinal issues we're seeing in our society, particularly the rise in the last 15 to 20 years, being at the fact that BT corn has become so prevalent. BT soy has become so prevalent. Look at what those products do. They blow up the digestive tracts of the insects that eat them. What are we seeing? It's blowing up the digestive tracts of the humans that are eating them. And to force people to spray foods with pesticides that they don't want to is It's a complete violation of your basic rights as a human being. If you don't want to eat poison, genetically modified frankenfoods, you shouldn't have to. Again, I don't understand how people can. I don't understand how people can wish to impose their will on somebody else when it involves something as basic as the food you're eating. But we see it time and time again. We see DuPont and Monsanto spending billions and billions of dollars to defeat ballot measures in Oregon and Colorado for GMO labeling. We're not asking you to take it out. We're not telling you to stop making the cottonseed and canola oils that are GMO-based. We're just asking you to label it, to let us know what we're eating, to let us know what we're putting into our bodies. But then again, look at how much McDonald's is fault, because they don't want you to know about the pink slime. They don't want you to know about the black fibrous things in the chicken nuggets. Look at all the money that's being spent to keep us eating and drinking poisons. And you know what? When we get back from break here, I'm going to play a little bit more of that Get the F Out clip from Infowars.com, getting the fluoride out of the water. It's time, folks. If we want a future, we have to start now. We have to start by taking out the glyphosates. We have to start by taking out the fluoride. We have to start by taking out the chemicals that are put into our food and water to keep us docile. This is what the Nazis experimented with during World War II in the concentration camps. Putting lithium and putting fluoride in the water to keep the Jews docile. Underfeeding them, feeding them bad food to keep them docile. That's what we're facing, folks. We are facing the culmination of Nazi tactics to keep us enslaved and docile. We are in a mad world. This is the Sit and Spin Radio Sunday Morning Freedom Spin, the Drew Howard Show. I'm your host, Drew Howard. We'll be right back after this break. Remember, it is a mad, mad world.
Their tears are filling up their glasses. No expression, no expression. Hide my head, I wanna drown my sorrow. No tomorrow, no tomorrow. And I find it kind of funny, I find it kind of sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best.
This is Junior Reid, and when I'm in South Carolina, I stay tuned to Kinetic Hi-Fi for the best in music scene. So hear this. Gunshot of fire, bodies on the floor, cops on the block, kicking down the door, it's crazy. Whoa, it's crazy. Hey, stand your horn, being in the streets, it's all without a job. That's why no youths are out there and a rob, it's crazy. Whoa, it's crazy. And don't forget, it's Kinetic Hi-Fi, man, scene.
Hi, this is Bob Charles, the host of The Bob Charles Show. I very rarely endorse anything, but this service deserves my attention. Atlantic Repair LLC is the only credit restoration company that is actually headquartered here in Charleston, South Carolina. Unlike other companies that overcharge you because a middleman gets paid and then your credit report goes to Poland packed in sauerkraut. This company is here to help all of us and our credit problems like low scores, collections, judgments, inquiries, and a bunch of more bad stuff. Call Atlantic Repair LLC at 888-957-1118. They are the one company in South Carolina that charges 50% less than any other service on the planet, and no monthly fees either. They work till they are done. They get my vote. Now it's your turn. Call 888-957-1118 or go to www.atlanticrepairllc.com. and follow the directions on page 1. They care for you.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, hey.
Hey, why is the computer so slow?
Internet connection?
It can't be the internet connection. We pay like $300 a month for that.
Holy chestnut.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, I know.
Yeah.
So it must be. Let's look around here for a second.
All right.
Yeah. You know what?
What?
Where's this wire go?
That wire?
That wire.
I don't know. It looks new.
It does kind of look new, but then there's like 18 wires down there. Let's try plugging it in over here. What do you say?
No, not there. No, right here.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Are you sure, Tom?
Positive. Plug it in.
All right, let's try that out.
Okay.
Don't be that guy. Instead, put your trust in ITSimplified.com. Cloud computing, data center servers, network management, Web 2.0, SQL, scalable architectures, programming, tech infrastructure, security, and anything else you shouldn't bother trying to figure out. Call 843-376-1991. That's 843-376-1991. ITSimplified.com. That's IT-simplified.com. Solutions simplified.
Do you sometimes think life was just better when I was young? Maybe you're right. You know, there has been a marked decline in girls ages 8 to 14 that participate in Girl Scouting. And today we're looking for girls who are ready to be the leaders of tomorrow. Girls in this age group are vital to Scouting. They serve as role models for younger girls and uplift the community. And ladies, we need you to be that example too. Become a volunteer, a troop leader, or just enroll your daughter in Girl Scouts today. Call 843-552-9910 to learn more.
Thanks for tuning in to KineticHiFi.com. Stay tuned in. Thanks.
No matter how he tried, he could not break free. And the ones they into his brain.
Sunday morning freedom spin, KineticHiFi.com, Spreaker Web Radio. As I said, I was going to play a little bit more of this video called Help Get the F Out. It's about a campaign to take fluoride out of waters nationwide. TV shows. And it's trying to get advertisements on the air to raise awareness. It's a Leanne McAdoo with Ivan Estevez on Infowars.com. You can check it out there. Play a little bit of the video here for you guys to take a listen to.
Ivan, welcome to the show. So please tell us a little bit about the Indiegogo campaign, Help Get the F Out.
Well, thanks for having me on the show here. It's great to be here. Yes, the Help Get the F Out campaign is basically a campaign that we are doing to raise money to be able to buy primetime airtime on ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, and air a public service announcement that we created with Ed Begley Jr. It's about fluoride, and it basically hits some bullet points on what fluoride actually does to people and gives them a plan of action to get together with their local fluoride awareness group in their city to help them work together with the city council and get the fluoride out of the water. So the campaign is basically an Indiegogo campaign to raise the money to actually buy the airtime to air the PSA on television to create mass awareness about what fluoride is doing to people. So that's what the campaign is to do. And we want to do it first in Dallas because Dallas is right on the fence in terms of having a victory and having a lot of people sign petitions and come down to city council right before the vote in mid-January could have a major impact on pushing Dallas towards not renewing that contract. So if we can get a victory in Dallas, that'll create a tidal wave or a domino effect, if you will, for other cities, as many cities are in the fight now to get fluoride out of the water. So basically, after the Dallas campaign, the idea is to run the campaign in other cities, Austin, Houston, San Francisco, L.A., New York, Atlanta, Raleigh-Durham, all the big cities that have a big push to get fluoride out of the water so we can boost the awareness in those cities and get a higher turnout for the people that actually show up with the city council members and so forth to help get it out the city level, because that's where it takes place.
Right, exactly. It is all about raising awareness and getting people to actually show up to these city council meetings. Hijacking the airwaves is a big part of that. I know here when we went to the Austin City Council, when they were trying to make their decision to renew their contract to put fluoride in the water, a lot of people showed up, We did have one city council member that actually feigned a little bit of interest. The mayor actually flipped us off secretively. You know, he thought he was kind of sly with his little giving us the finger. But, you know, I think it was just that there wasn't a lot of awareness until all of these people just showed up. There were actually 2 guys out there doing a fluoride hunger strike. They did that for about 3 weeks to try and raise awareness for this fluoride. But let's go ahead and take a look at the PSA.
Hi, I'm Ed Begley Jr. You know, back in the 50s, doctors on television told us cigarettes were cool, fun, and harmless. They also told us adding fluoride to our water is good for our teeth. But did you know 41% of American children now have dental fluorosis? You want your children's teeth to look like this? You think that's bad? How about your child's brain? Well, scientists at Harvard University published that fluoride prevents proper brain development and lowers IQ. So if people have to wear hazmat suits to handle this stuff because it's so corrosive it eats through concrete, and you're warned to call poison control if you swallow your toothpaste, then why is it still added to the water we drink, cook, and shower with? The good news is countries like Israel and cities like Portland, Wichita, and Davis, California have rejected fluoridation, and we can too. So here's what you want to do. First, get all the facts at fluoridealert.org. Second, go to fluorideprotection.org for everything you need to protect your family from fluoride. Then, work with your city's fluoride awareness group to get this poison out of your community's water.
So obviously that's a very powerful PSA. So what showtime are people going to be seeing this, like during Dr. Oz, or what's the audience that's going to be viewing this really powerful PSA?
Yeah, ideally, you know, we'd like to air it on, like you said, on shows like Dr. Oz, Ellen, trying to think other ones. Basically, I would like to go to Ellen, for example, if we raise, you know, X amount of dollars for this. And I know she's behind the same, you know, she wants to get fluoride out of the water too. So I would like to go to her and say, hey, will you match the funds that we actually raised for this PSA? And, you know, so we can air it more times during your show, because I know you care about your viewers, and, you know, she would love to see her viewers know about this and protect themselves from it. So, you know, same with Dr. Oz.
Yeah, it's kind of raising awareness that you can get that support of the public to kind of take the stigma away from fluoride, because everyone, you know, oh, well, it's in our toothpaste. The dentists have been telling us for 50 years it's safe. So it's kind of just getting away from that misinformation. How did you get in? How did you get in touch with Ed Begley Jr., the actor there in the PSA?
Actually, you know, Paul Conant and I and Michael Conant, his son, I was trying to produce a multi-part series about fluoride. I was wanting to do about 20 different segments, 5 minutes apiece, and put them on public television. And the funding wasn't there. But I knew I wanted to do something with fluoride and get a message out there. And so we reduced it down to a public service announcement, and we had a couple actors, you know, to kind of choose from. Dr. Conant from the Fluoride Action Network had a contact with, and Martin Sheen was one, Ed Asner was another, Ed Begley was another, and I think Bill Mayer was one other. So I chose Ed Begley. I've, you know, been a fan of Ed Begley. I know he really cares about the environment. And so I just figured he'd be the one to do this with, and so that's how, you know, it came from a connection with Dr. Paul Conant from the Fluoride Action Network and fluoridealert.org. So fortunately, Ed was very pleased to do it, and we eventually got it done, so here we are.
Yeah, well, you could tell he was pretty passionate about it, not just reading his cue cards like a good actor should. You could tell he was really, there was some passion behind his words there. You also direct people to some other great resources there in the commercial, fluorideprotection.org, where you kind of let people know about some other things that they can use to help detoxify their body from fluoride. Obviously, our Fluoride Shield is featured right there, using it as one of the products that to kind of educate the public on just different things that they can eat, natural things, and things that their body might not be, you know, might be deficient on to help them, you know, counteract the effects of fluoride.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the things that you're talking about there?
Well, you know, it was the last minute. I had written a script for this PSA, and I was like, you know what, we got to give something to the people to be able to protect themselves in the meantime if the government still delays on getting this stuff out of the water. And if they do delay, but we've notified the people on what they can use naturally to actually detoxify their bodies from fluoride and protect it from ongoing exposure, then we've kind of fixed the problem in a way, or at least halfway. And my take on that was, if we get 10 million people who find out about fluoride and start protecting themselves from it, and they get it out of their body, well, we know that means their pineal glands will start functioning.
Right.
And if that's our connection to the spiritual realm and spiritual, who we really are and our true essence, then we need to be connected to that. So we know that fluoride calcifies that gland and prevents it from working. And I liken that to a rabbit ears on the television. I mean, we used to have rabbit ears on televisions, and when the rabbit ears were on the television, we got the signal. We could see the picture and watch the movie on television. But if the rabbit ears fell off the television, the signal didn't come in, and all we got was fuzz on the television, and we couldn't see the signal. Well, it's the same thing with our pineal gland. That's the master gland in our brain that gives us, as spiritual beings, the ability to connect with that realm and still be in the physical realm in the human body. So again, if it's calcified and it's not working, then we're not nearly what our potential is. We're just mere shadows of it, really. So my philosophy is if we can teach people how to protect themselves from fluoride, whether the government takes it out of the water or not, at least people can be protected and basically have their DNA protected, have their bodies protected. And that just means less cancer, less degenerative diseases, less ADHD, less everything that we're seeing in our society that's been coming on in our society for the last 70 years, which is basically when this stuff started getting in the water. So if we just watch the trail, we can figure out why there's so much disease. And fluoride is the most corrosive element of all the elements on the periodic table of elements. So if you get near it, you're going to corrode. So that's what it does with the human body. So we can just teach people that.
Right.
We'd have a different society.
Absolutely. Very powerful there with the hazmat suit, and really incredible metaphor there with the rabbit ears on the television, because that's exactly it. It's kind of scrambling the signal, and we've got to decalcify our pineal gland to be able to get there with our true essence, our true human evolution, rather than being enslaved like we have been. Well, the campaign launched November 4th. It's going to run for 60 days. It can be extended to about, I apologize. The campaign launched November 4th. It's going to run for 40 days, but it can get an extension to 60. What do you want to tell the people now to get them involved? Obviously, when you run these campaigns, there's a little bit of a kickback for people who might help you donate to the project. But what do you really want to, let our audience know?
Well, we've got a bunch of, we call them perks on the Indiegogo campaign. Those are basically giveaways or incentives or gifts in exchange for your cooperation and your collaboration in helping us do this campaign. So, and they're things that really benefit you. It's not like we're sending you a picture of something that really doesn't make any difference. These are things that will make a difference in your life. These are all natural fluoride-free toothpastes. There are detoxification protocols and products from Dr. Edward Group from the Global Healing Center that he's donated to the campaign that will completely clean people out. We've got superfoods on there that, basically are loaded with vitamins and nutrients that our normal food does not have. And those are not vitamins and nutrients and minerals that our body needs to actually protect us from fluoride exposure and exposure to other chemicals and metals. So all the giveaways that we're doing on the campaign in exchange for people's sponsorship are things that are only going to benefit them and help their health. And if they want to give away fluoride toothpaste to their friends, we've got what we call ambassador packs, which are a pack of like 5 different flavors of fluoride-free toothpaste that they can give away to their friends and just get the word out there. And if they're going to buy toothpaste anyway, they might as well send their money towards the campaign and get free toothpaste, all natural toothpaste, that is, the best that there is, and just, make good use of their money and, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, if you will. So try to make a benefit for everybody involved as much as we can here. So that's the idea of the perks on the campaign. We're offering Fluoride Shield too, as well. It's basically the first time. It's the first line of defense. It's got everything you need to detoxify your body in there. So, for a donation, we'll send you a bottle of Fluoride Shield and some fluoride-free toothpaste, and you're on your way. So,
yeah, it is really incredible. So either way, you're getting something out of it, and at the very least, you're helping to raise awareness, educate the public about the dangers of fluoride, and we might get that big win of actually getting fluoride out.
It's time that we all start standing up and we start asking questions. Why did our government think it was a good idea in the first place to poison us? Why do they think it's a good idea to spray pesticides on organic foods when people are turning in droves away from the traditionally grown foods, which are now horrific conditions, which are pesticides, glyphosate-ridden crops? Chickens in particular, I'm a big proponent of free-range chickens and organic chickens because the major not pharmaceutical, but the major farm industry dealing with raising poultry in particular is just vicious. They cut the beaks off the chickens because they would literally try to peck themselves to death because they're in such hellish conditions. Put in cages where they can't move, fattened up with feeds, with GMO crops. In some cases, we're seeing the genetically altered chickens that have like 6 breasts and 8 wings. It's sick and it's disgusting. And to think we're taking all of those toxic chemicals, we're putting them in our bodies. We're taking all that stress that those animals have. We're injecting that into our bodies. It's true that we get a lot of not only our nutrients, but our feelings from the foods that we eat. If you eat happy animals, you feel better. It's a proven fact. If you eat foods that you grew yourself, that you have a connection to, they're better for you. They're more nurturing. They heal you better. Cancers are raging us and ravaging us because of the toxic chemicals in our food and water. You get away from it. You get back to organics. The body heals itself. Nature finds a way, to quote Jurassic Park. And no matter what you believe, whether you believe it was spiritual, whether you believe it's evolution, either way, the plants that we take in, the animals we take in, the food that we eat is meant to help us. Whether it's through evolution or whether it's through divine intervention, it's meant to help us. It's meant to nourish us. It's meant to keep us healthy. And instead, what we do is we get sugary GMO crops shoved down our throat. We get the lamestream media. We get commercials. We get Edward Bernays-style propaganda telling us to eat junk food. It's the biggest drain on the medical industrial system right now, folks, is the fact that we as Americans are so out of shape. We're so disease-ridden due to the fact that we're eating toxic garbage. We're drinking toxic garbage in our food and in our water. But as long as the TV says it's cool, well, that's what we got to do, right? Did want to get to this article before we get out of here. Colosseum. They're looking at revamping the ancient Colosseum in Rome. It says, don't expect gladiators to make a later day comeback, and soccer has already been ruled out. But an archaeologist's proposal to return the Colosseum storied arena to the state it was in when gladiators sparred with lions has sparked a lively debate over appropriate uses of the monument that symbolizes the glories of ancient Rome. Critics have fretted that the Colosseum would be turned into a venue for events like rock concerts, viewed as both unbefitting of its stature as an ancient wonder and likely to inflict damage to the structure already weakened by earthquakes, notably in 443 and also in the 1700s. They're wanting to redo the Colosseum so that way people can see what it was like when it was in its majestic moment. Basically, they're wanting to put a floor back. There's no floor in the Colosseum right now, so they're wanting to put the floor back. Archaeologist Daniel Marcarona of Roma Tre University says a suggestion to replace the arena's long-disappeared floor is aimed at restoring the Colosseum to its original state so visitors can better appreciate its ancient splendor, not turning it into a heavily trafficked concert venue. The proposal lay dormant, tucked inside a July issue of the specialized Archeo periodical until Italy's culture minister endorsed it or the tweet on Sunday saying it just takes some courage. They've rebuffed modern day fantasies like the AC Roma soccer club playing there. I think it'd be cool. Anytime that they can historically recreate something or repair it, I think that's pretty neat. And Colosseum was really the original great venue of the world. So it'd be good to see at least some work done to preserve, and not only for that, but for future generations. Speaking of earthquakes, we had a swarm of 750 earthquakes in the Nevada desert, northern Nevada, Northeast California and Nevada, dealing with a swarm of earthquakes. And I got a video here we can play from a local news station. It talks about it.
Tonight, people up near the Oregon border are waiting for the ground to move again. A swarm of earthquakes has hit the area for months. So we asked Paul to find out what this really means. Paul?
If you have an earthquake app, it means that you're looking down every hour saying, wow, another earthquake in the same spot. So what makes a swarm? Is it 50? Is it 100? Is it 200? Since July, more than 550 earthquakes in this one spot, and 150 of those in the past week. It's right where Oregon, California, and Nevada come together. It's northwestern Nevada, about 40 miles away from Lakeview, Oregon. They have had a tremendous amount of earthquake activity recently, and that has seismologists curious. They say that there is a slight increase of a much larger earthquake happening in that spot because of this swarm.
We don't know exactly why it's happening. Nevada appears to have them. Perhaps 30 years ago, we didn't have enough stations to know the details, and Nevada is, of course, one of the more sparsely populated states, and so if there's a big earthquake in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, does the tree fall down?
Sparsely populated, but a 4.7 magnitude earthquake just this morning, the biggest one of these 550. You can track earthquakes through our free KPIX5 weather app. Download it by going to the Play Store or the iTunes Store. Head to our link as well on our website, kpix.com. Your full forecast. We're talking about the polar vortex again.
So, yeah, in this map, they have it on here with the earthquakes, and it's just showing, like, insane the rate of them popping up starting November 3rd. So in just the last week alone, you can watch the map with all the dots. So it goes up to 178 between Monday and Friday. 178 earthquakes, most of them between 2 to 3 on the Richter scale. 6 earthquakes of a magnitude of 4.0 or greater have struck the area since Tuesday, and about 40 have struck in the last 24 hours. We're seeing a lot of crazy geological things going on. We've seen that in Arkansas for quite a while. They've had earthquakes like this where they're digging out, doing tunneling for underground cities that the Illuminati control. Great videos you can find out about that if you just look online about the underground caverns there in Arkansas and in the Ozarks. But that was one of the signs that they were having earthquakes constantly with that. Is this underground digging? Are they doing anything out there in the Nevada desert? They're always doing something out in the Nevada desert. So who knows? There's a lot of things we're not told, people. A lot of things that we don't get the joys of looking behind the curtain and seeing. The men pulling the levers, making the giant machine work. Sometimes we can catch a little glimpse of the light around the curtain, and I think that's what we see with these earthquakes. That's why you have to look at the story behind the story. That's what we try to do here at Sit and Spin Radio. Anyways, a couple quick plugs before we get out of here today. I do have to get out of here about 10:30, so time's coming short on that. But a couple quick plugs. The Charleston Improbables return this Saturday evening to the Flowertown Theater out in Somerville. Tickets are available. Showtime's 8 o'clock. Hope to see you out there. It's always a fun show with Charleston Improbables. Then we'll also be in action next Saturday evening, the 22nd, as well, at Pug's Tavern out in Somerville. So 2 chances in the next 2 weeks to see the Charleston Improbables. Again, I want to say thank you to Thomas Paris and all the people down there at the Savannah Comedy Review. Excuse me, misspeaking. Savannah Comedy Review had a great time Friday night as part of their contest. 17 comedians ended up showing up. It was a packed house, a very full contest. But I want to thank the Savannah Comedy Review. I want to thank Bay Street Theater, everybody involved with that, all the great celebrity judges. It was great to meet Michael Loya, Batman from Jax, Bruce from American Hearts TV network there. Check them out. They got great programming. They show every Sunday night. You can catch BTS on the road, which this week's episode I was a big part of. It was filmed last week when Brian T. Shirley and myself were out at Pug's Tavern in Somerville. Heard Pug's Tavern had a great show last night with the funny Sean Jones was there. Good friend of mine, Sean Jones. Chris Adams was out there. So I heard they had a great show at Pug's Tavern. It's the best place to see comedy in the Low Country every Saturday night. Tony Kemp does a great job out there, runs a great room. He's been bringing you the best comedians for over 30 years. So want to give a shout out to my good friend Tony Kemp as well. So, but again, come out, see the Charleston Improvables. You can also check out the new DrewHowardComedy.com website, DrewHowardComedy.com. In fact, I haven't been there today, so let's go ahead and pull that up. It's got a bio, a couple pictures, things like that. We got some work going to it, but DrewHowardComedy.com, you can head there. Also, give the Facebook a like, Facebook.com/DrewHowardComedy. I know Nick's got a lot going on with the Suburban Myth, with his band Suburban Myth. I'm sure he'll talk to you about that when he takes over here at the top of the next hour with the Sunday Spin with Nick O'Kelly. Don't want to miss out on that. And we'll be back next Saturday again for the Weekend Sit and Spin, our flagship show every Saturday from 9 to noon right here on KineticHiFi.com, also on Spreaker Web Radio. And just a reminder, you can catch me Wednesday afternoons on the BTS radio show from 4 to 6 right here on KineticHiFi.com as well. We get the best comedians, musicians, writers, you name it. If you're doing anything in the entertainment industry, we want to talk to you. We get the best of that every week. Always a big show that Brian puts together. It's a great time sitting there talking to people about their careers and about what's going on. It's a lot of fun. So hang out with us on Wednesday afternoon from 4 to 6 with the BTS show. Again, and be back Saturday for Sit and Spin Radio, the Weekend Sit and Spin. But hang on tight, because Nick O'Kelly's coming up to take you into 1 o'clock with the Sunday Spin with Nick O'Kelly. So thank you guys for joining us. And as always, want to leave you with a few words of wisdom this Sunday afternoon. Go out there and make this world a little bit better by following this advice.
Be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes!
So there it is. God willing, Sunday, and be excellent to each other. That's really the way that we win. That's the way we fight tyranny. And that's the way we take back our world, is by being excellent to each other. This has been the Drew Howard Show. I'm Drew Howard. Thanks for joining me. And hope to see you guys on Saturday for the Weekend Sit and Spin right here at KineticHiFi.com.